Welcome to the FemiNinja Project. I am your host, Cheryl Ilov, middle-aged ninja hiding in plain sight, dedicated to restoring human dignity one person at a time and helping you unleash your personal power. Discover that it's possible to look like a woman, act like a lady, move like a ninja, and think like a warrior. And remember, men are always welcome on the FemiNinja Project. Living well and looking good is a very important part of the spirit of the FemiNinja. And that means being able to keep ourselves fit, healthy, flexible, moving, and in the best shape possible in every single stage of life, regardless of our age or our current level of fitness, because the good news is we can improve at every single stage of life, and we can continue to improve no matter where we are right now. It's an ongoing process, and one that needs constant attention, but in a gentle, loving way, and we're going to address that in this episode. One of the many things that I learned in my life's journey is that you just have to keep moving, which sounds pretty basic and almost like a no-brainer, but it's funny how we get away from the basics and we think that staying in shape or being healthy has to be a lot more complicated than what it truly is. And you know, when we were children, it was really easy because what did we do all day long? We moved, we played. We were bodies in motion, which is the way nature intended it to be, and we were really good at it. But as time went on, once we got a little bit older and we started school, we were sitting more and playing less. And then we got involved in things like maybe organized sports or gymnastics or dance. And then we were taught how we should move, the right way to move, the wrong way to move. And if we did things well, we were good. If we didn't, then, well, we were bad, or we needed to work on it a little bit more. And that sense of playfulness and self-discovery was kind of lost along the way. And then once we finished school and we went out into the real world, that sense of bodies in motion and constantly moving were lost, because a lot of us ended up in jobs that were either sedentary, where we had to sit all day long, or stand in one position for long hours at a time, and neither one is very good for our bodies. I personally believe that sitting is evil, and it is so detrimental to our body. And now they're coming up with, you hear research saying that sitting is the new smoking. As a former respiratory therapist, I really don't think it's quite the same, but the point is, yes, it is not very good for our health, both physically and even mentally and emotionally. And the same thing for standing for long periods of time is really, really hard on our bodies, our feet, our low back, our legs. We were meant to move. So we find ourselves sometimes in a position where, oh my gosh, it's time for me to get back into shape. I've got to do something. I've got to start exercising, go to the gym and work out. And I don't know about you, but I personally hate exercise, which is really kind of funny because I am a physical therapist. So I like to tell people that I'm a physical therapist who hates exercise and thinks that chocolate is food. And right about now you're thinking, well, isn't it? And yes, in my own humble opinion, chocolate is food. And I think that if there was more chocolate in the world, there'd be a whole lot less Prozac, but that's beside the point. I hate exercise, and traditional exercise never worked for me. And I've tried it before. I tried going to the gym, I tried exercise classes, and it just never resonated with me, and it was something that I never stuck with. But fortunately, I love to move. And you might be wondering, well, what's the difference? And the difference is in movement, you're finding things that you really enjoy doing, you like to do, and you're more likely to stick with it. So it goes back to when we were children and we were playing. We didn't realize that we were actually moving our bodies. We just knew that we were having a good time. So it's the same thing even as adults. We've got to find things that we really enjoy. We have to turn working out, so to speak, into playtime. And you might think, well, that doesn't sound like play to me. And once again, I agree, because I hate exercise. I was fortunate enough to discover dance when I was in college and continued dancing up until even right now. I did have to take a couple of breaks along the way, including when I had my horrible back injury and I was incapacitated for 2.5 years. And then once I had recovered from my back pain, I ended up being accepted into physical therapy school at Colorado University, which was really exciting because it was one of my goals. I was in my late 30s, so it was my second career, but that meant in physical therapy school that I had to sit for days and hours and even weeks at a time. We were in class from 8 to 5 every single day, Monday through Friday, and that doesn't count the amount of time that we had to spend in the evenings studying just to keep up. And on the weekends, I would spend 12 hours in the library on Saturday and Sunday just to be able to keep up with all the materials. And when you think about it, I thought it was awfully ironic that a program which was designed to teach 60 healthy, active, physically minded individuals how to keep other people healthy and recover from injuries through exercise would take those same people and immobilize them for 2 years. It just really didn't make much sense. A lot of my classmates were runners, and during a lunch break, they could get in a really good 30-minute run, so that did wonders for their fitness and their self-esteem and even their mental acuity. And there was also a gym on campus where a lot of my other classmates would go and do a quick workout, either before classes started or afterwards. And, again, they had a great way of keeping themselves fit, both mentally, physically, and cognitively, which is really important when you're going through such a grueling medical program. And my classmates were very gracious. A lot of them invited me to go running with them or to join them at the gym because they could see what was happening to my level of fitness, which was going downhill and sinking like a stone. The only exercise I ever got was during finals or midterms when I would do a quick little jaunt, a little jog across the street to the 7-Eleven to stock up on as much junk food as I possibly could to satisfy even the most desperate graduate student on campus. Ballet and Pilates had always been my activities of choice to stay in shape, so unless they opened up a ballet studio on campus or a Pilates studio, I was kind of out of luck until after graduation. And I didn't worry about it too much because I figured I would just get back into shape after I graduated, and how hard could it possibly be? I would just go back to ballet and Pilates and it would be a piece of cake. Well, I graduated physical therapy school just 3 months shy of my 40th birthday, and I threw myself back into ballet class with all the enthusiasm and naivete of somebody who didn't understand what it was like to be 40 and really out of shape and overweight, and having been immobilized for the past 4 years between my back injury and then physical therapy school, because they came one right after another. Well, it was a disaster, and I kept injuring myself, and I wasn't getting back into shape because I kept getting hurt, and I really couldn't do the classes like I did before. I didn't know what in the world had happened in the past 4 years. It was like somebody had changed all the rules, and nobody thought to mention it to me. So I realized there I was, 40 years old, which is really quite young, and I had to figure out for myself how I was going to get myself back into kind of shape and condition that I wanted to. And I would look around and I would see people who were much older than me who were moving in a way that was so much better and easier, and just like their bodies were flowing instead of me just beating myself up. I was beating myself up so badly that I actually tore an arm muscle in ballet class one time doing grand battement, which are big kicks. And that's a ballet injury that went down in history because I was just holding onto the bar so tightly, and my weight was kind of like back on the standing leg when I was kicking my right leg up in the air. So to upright myself, I just grabbed the bar and yanked even harder to pull myself into an upright position so I wouldn't lose my balance. And I felt a sharp pain and a kind of like a really strange sensation in my upper arm on my left arm, and actually fell to the ground clutching my arm in pain. And, that was a really big wake-up call for me, that I was doing something wrong and something had to change. So what does this mean to you, and why is it important? Why am I bringing it up? I think because a lot of us find ourselves in that position, especially when we're approaching 40, of trying to get back into shape. Maybe we've neglected ourselves for a while because we've been really busy with our careers, with our families. And then we realize we need to start taking care of ourselves, and maybe we have a little bit more time, maybe we don't, but we just understand that it's time to start taking care of ourselves. And a lot of us fall into that trap of we have to go to the gym 3 times a week. Traditional wisdom tells us that this is what we have to do. We have to use the machines, we have to do the weights, and sometimes we don't like it. It doesn't resonate with us, and it ends up being another chore that we have to fit into our schedule, something more like having to go to the grocery store or do the dishes. And one of the things that is easy to put off is going to the gym, especially if we're tired or the weather isn't cooperating, don't want to drive across town, whatever the reason is. And then we start to feel bad about ourselves because we know that we should work out or we should exercise because that's what we need to do. But again, it's something that society or somebody else is telling us that we should do for ourselves instead of figuring out for ourselves what we could do. And if you love going to the gym, if it's something that just fills your heart with joy, by all means do go. But if it doesn't and it feels like something you'd rather be having a root canal rather than go to the gym, then it's time to figure out something else instead. And there are plenty of other things to do to keep yourself fit, flexible, and healthy for life. And the key is just to keep moving. So if you have a sedentary job, that's a real challenge for you. But you have to figure out a way that to incorporate extra steps during your day, even during your 8-hour workday or more. A lot of people work even more than that. So when you do have time, either a break or lunchtime, make sure that you walk around the building. In bad weather, you can walk around the inside of your office building. You can do stairs. You don't have to run stairs, but very slowly going up and down the stairs. Not only will that get the blood moving, your circulation going, it will clear your head and give you more energy for the rest of your day. And if you're going up and down really slowly and paying attention to where you're placing your foot on the stairs and how you're using your legs to go up and down, you'll actually be toning and shaping your legs and your muscles even more than you would if you were just mindlessly running up and down the stairs. So while you're doing that, even as you're going up and down the stairs, think about lifting your lower abdominal muscles. Don't suck them in like you're just like somebody punched you in the gut, but think of a lengthening of the front of your belly and just a lifting and a gentle tightening. So that's going to get your core muscles working too. And when we think of our core muscles, a lot of people think of that washboard ab look, the six-pack that everybody wants. But those are more superficial muscles, the superficial abdominal muscles. But the muscles we really want to target are the muscles, the core muscles that are much deeper inside your body, deeper inside your abdomen, closer to the area of your spine and deep in your pelvis. Those are the ones that are really going to give us the support, not only for our spine and our abdominals, but will actually give us a little bit more length in our spine and a flatter tummy and a smaller waistline as we continue to focus on them and work them. And this is a tip not just for people who have a sedentary job, but for all of us. Any extra steps, any extra movement that you can incorporate in your daily routine, your daily life, really adds up and actually will give you more benefit if you do that every single day. It can actually be even more effective than going to the gym 3 times a week, because it's not about what you do when you go to the gym 3 times a week. It's what you do in between. routine. So if you do love going to the gym, by all means, go. If you love it and you enjoy it, that's wonderful. But still be aware of what you're doing in between visits to the gym, because you can get even more bang for your buck by adding more movement every single day during your daily routine. It isn't that hard to add in. So another tip, another thing that I really love is those big exercise balls, especially, again, if you do have a job where you sit for hours at a time during the day. If you can alternate from sitting in your office chair to sitting on one of those exercise balls, they are fantastic for just getting your circulation going, getting your lymph flow going, working your posture, your core strength, your abdominals, your balance, your flexibility, and really waking up your brain, your nervous system, because all of a sudden you're sitting on a surface that is unstable. So it really makes you pay attention to yourself and to your environment. Otherwise, you would fall off the ball. So keeping that in mind, if you've never sat on an exercise ball before, be very, very careful, because you are on an unstable surface, and you might want to consider hiring either a physical therapist or a personal trainer or Pilates instructor to help you get started and know that you will be safe and you have the correct size and you're using it properly. Just sitting on the ball for a few minutes every single day really does wonders for your health and your wellness and your fitness. And when you add gentle bouncing to sitting on the ball, that takes it to another level and just really does help get the blood flowing. And besides, it makes you feel like a kid again, and it really is a whole lot of fun. So that's another way that you can get more movement into your daily life. And another way that you can incorporate more movement into your daily life, and it might sound kind of silly, but it really is a lot of fun, and I encourage you to give it a try before you judge me on it, and that is to dance in your kitchen. A lot of us spend a lot of time in our kitchen, whether we want to or not, because we're always either cooking, eating, or cleaning up. And in my case, it seems like I'm always cleaning the kitchen. I can't believe that just two people could make such a mess all the time. But what I like to do is turn on some music and just dance around the kitchen as I'm cleaning up. I either do that, or sometimes I'll practice some of my sneaky ninja moves. So it just makes cleaning the kitchen a lot more fun and more interesting and less of a chore. Plus, it's another way that you can get extra movement into your day that really is very enjoyable. Another thing that I'm a huge fan of is fidgeting. You remember fidgeting. That's something that we used to get into a lot of trouble doing when we were kids. Stop fidgeting. But what I want you to do is start fidgeting. Just tapping your feet, moving around in your chair, any kind of having ants in your pants moving around is going to get your body moving. Again, the blood flowing, the circulation, the lymph flow, the muscles gently working in a gentle way. And it's another way to have really fun movement incorporated into your daily routine. Besides, it also is a way to drive people crazy, and I think that that's just an added bit of bang for your buck and a little bit of extra benefit with that. And a really important point that I want to make is that fitness is not a size or a number. It's not about how you look, it's about how you feel. And the ability to engage in the activities that you want to do and love to do with strength, grace, and confidence during the entire course of your lifetime, whether it's hiking, dancing, golfing, swimming, or just being able to get down on the floor and back up again so you can play with your kids or your grandkids. It's all about moving. And when you can move better, you do feel better and you do look better. So it starts this wonderful positive cycle of looking good, feeling good, getting stronger, and actually gently working on your flexibility and your strength at the same time. So it's a different approach to fitness, and it's not the traditional way. This is something that I actually published a book 2 years ago titled Forever Fit and Flexible, Feeling Fabulous at 50 and Beyond. And I did list a lot of these techniques in the book because I think too often we do get caught in that trap where we have to go to the gym 3 times a week, otherwise we're a bad person. And then if we don't do it, we start to feel bad about ourselves and we feel guilty, and then there's that negative spiraling down, and you get to the point where it's like, why even bother? So just change your focus a little bit and start thinking about moving in a way that how much more movement can you incorporate in every single daily activity, because it's all there. And the other thing I wanted to say is what movement is life, and movement is part of survival. If you can't move and adjust your weight, adjust your movement, or change your position at any moment in time, you're vulnerable. So the ability to move is actually a survival skill. And it actually goes not only from the external movement that we can see, it actually goes down into a cellular level as well, which gets a little bit complicated. And I really don't want to get into that right now, but I probably will sometime in the future, because it really is fascinating. And another thing to remember is to be gentle with yourself. That's another thing that we forget about, and we all fall into that trap too, of beating ourselves up either if we aren't performing well enough, or if we're not working hard enough, or if we don't look the way we think we should look, or comparing ourselves to other people. That's one thing you want to be careful of too, because that goes against the concept of being gentle with yourself. And the other thing too is if you are comparing yourself with somebody else, or if you're trying to compare what you're doing with what traditional wisdom tells you should do, or giving into the idea of what society or the media or the fitness industry says that you should look like, you're actually allowing somebody else to set your standards. And you don't want to do that, because if you do, then that means you're sacrificing your individuality. You're sacrificing your own needs. And we're all individuals. We all have different history. We have different biology. We have different physical structure. We have different mental, emotional, and psychological makeup that determines what we want to do in life and what we want to achieve and want to accomplish, and not sacrifice our own individuality. Why would we want to do that? If we all looked the same, moved the same, it would really be boring. So just figure out what works for you. On that note, I also wanted to suggest try some classes. There are a lot of different movement modalities that are out there that you can choose from. I personally love classes, of course, ballet classes and my martial arts classes, because I'm a social person. I enjoy the camaraderie of other people around me. And to me, being able to share a passion with people who have the same interests that I do is just a really exhilarating and uplifting experience, and it's something that really keeps me going. If you like having that social experience, again, going to classes is a really great way to do it. But don't go if it's something that you don't enjoy doing. There are so many things to pick from, like yoga, Pilates, Tai Chi. There's something called Feldenkrais, and I will get into that at another time. All kind of dance classes that you can choose from if you've always wanted to start studying dance, but never thought the timing was right. Maybe the time is right now. And I'm not talking about walking into a classical ballet class. That's kind of brutal. But there are a lot of different styles of dance that you can choose from. And dance is actually the mother lode of fitness, health, wellness. It gets everything from your strength, your balance, your coordination, your flexibility, but it really works your brain in a way that no other exercise does. And recent studies have shown that taking any kind of dance lessons or dance classes really stimulates the brain in a way that no other form of exercise does, because it brings in so many parts of your brain and stimulates it. Just trying to learn the movements, the spatial orientation, the environment, working around other people, the music, the coordination of the movement, everything. It fires up all cylinders, so to speak, and actually prevents dementia or Alzheimer's. So put on those dancing shoes and go find yourself a dance class. If you don't love it, go find something else. And that's another point I want to make, is that life is way too short to do things that you feel you have to do or you should do, rather than find something that you could do that really resonates with you and that you enjoy and you're going to stick with. Any kind of martial art is another movement modality that helps fire up all the cylinders of the brain as well, except for the music, of course. But you might want to find something, a softer style, like Tai Chi, or maybe an Aikido, or something that isn't quite as brutal as the martial art that I have been trained in, because that can cause a lot of wear and tear on your body. Another thing I really enjoy about taking classes is that you do get to meet a lot of new people along the way, because new people are always coming in and going and that type of thing. But I have to tell you a story about one of my clients, one of my favorite clients. She was with me for a very long time in my physical therapy practice. I also I specialized in Pilates-based rehabilitation and conditioning, so I had that as an adjunct to my services. And she had come for the rehabilitation many years ago and then stayed with me for the Pilates conditioning. And she was a little bit older, and she had had osteopenia, which is a form of a decrease in bone density and could be a precursor to osteoporosis, both conditions being common in postmenopausal women, although men can get it as well. And osteopenia is kind of like a warning sign that if you're not careful, osteoporosis may be right around the corner for you. So she was keeping it under control, working with me with Pilates, and I had given her an exercise program that she could do at home with light weights to help build her bones and keep her muscles strong, which you have to really stress the muscles to keep your bones strong. So she came to my office one day and she was just devastated because her osteopenia had progressed to osteoporosis, and she was devastated, and she had to start the medication to help increase her bone density, which was already giving her really terrible side effects right away when she began taking it. And she asked me what else could she possibly do, that she would do anything. And she said she was already taking Pilates. Well, she was only doing it one day a week at my office. And she said she was walking every day and she didn't know what else she could do. And she was asking for my advice, and she assured me that she would do anything, just anything, and she didn't care what it was, to reverse her osteoporosis and revert back to osteopenia so she could stop taking the medication. And she didn't care what she had to do. She assured me she would do it. So I started to question her a little bit more thoroughly. And I said, well, okay, I gave you those exercises at home. Are you doing those exercises? And she admitted that she wasn't, because, time would just get away from her. And so she remembered what they were, but she didn't do them. However, she assured me that she did walk every single day. She had to walk the dog. So at least once a day, sometimes maybe even twice, she was walking her little dog. So I questioned her a little bit more thoroughly, and I said, all right, so are you really walking very quickly? Is it, like a power walk, or how are you doing it? And she said, well, no, we kind of like meander, because the little guy has to stop and sniff each individual blade of grass every couple of feet, which is not exactly the kind of bone-pounding exercise that you need to keep your bones strong and to reverse something like osteoporosis. That wasn't going to work. So I made a few other suggestions, and nothing was really working. And finally, I took a deep breath and I said, okay, I have one more thing that I think would be perfect for you, but I don't know how you're going to feel about it. And she says, anything. I will do anything. So I said, okay, I think you should go to a senior center and take a weight training class. Dead silence. She looked at me like I had lost my mind. And I said, no, really, I think it'd be really good for you. This is the one thing that you really need right now. She finally agreed to run it by her chiropractor, Susan, who I know pretty well. And I thought, yeah, I wonder what Susan's going to think of this. So when she left, she says, she assured me that she was going to talk to her chiropractor. And when she came back the following week, she had a very crestfallen look on her face. And I said, well, what did Susan say? And she said she thought it was a great idea. And you could see that my client was really, really disappointed. She figured that the chiropractor would poo-poo the whole idea, but she didn't. She was behind it, and she thought it would be wonderful. So I gave my client the name of a local senior center. I says, just give them a call and see. So she came back the next week, and she had already tried one of the classes, and she absolutely hated it. I said, well, just stick with it for a couple of months and see what happens. She came back the next week and she hated it a little bit less. And by the end of the first month, she really was enjoying it, and she had met a whole new group of wonderful friends that she met in the class and had an awful lot in common with. So it was really a win-win situation. But the best part of the story is when she went for her follow-up with her doctor 6 months later, she came back and she announced that she had reversed her osteoporosis back to osteopenia, had been off of the medication for a while, and she was really, really happy. And she kept going to the classes. She continued with her weight training because she was enjoying it so much. She was feeling really good about herself. She was feeling really strong, and she had a lot more stamina, a lot more energy. So it was one of those stories that you have to kind of be careful what you poo-poo, because that's what she did when I first mentioned the fact that she might want to try a weight training class. So the point is to keep an open mind and to try a variety of different things. And you might want to shake things up a little bit and try new things, because our bodies and our brain kind of get a little bit tired of doing the same thing over and over and over again. And then we go into something called habituation. It's when we do something by rote without even thinking about it, kind of like brushing our teeth or getting in the car and driving to work, because we don't have to think about it. And it loses its impact, it loses its value, and it loses its effectiveness. So it's almost like if you ate the exact same thing for dinner every night for a couple of months, you'd really get bored with it, and you wouldn't feel satisfied, and you would feel like you would have to eat more and more and more just to fill in the blanks or to fill in that empty spot. And movement is kind of the same way. You want to keep it interesting. You want to make it engaging for your mind as well as your body, so you continue to stick with it. And if you decide that you're getting bored, try something new. If something isn't working for you, you can always change it. Variety is the spice of life, so just keep things going. And the last thing I just want to remind you is just to keep moving. Movement is life. Movement is energy. And that's a wrap on another episode of the FemiNinja Project. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, be safe, be strong, and until next time, bye now.